The parallels between Epstein and Diddy when desperation meets the loser mentality. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to my series where we're talking about the origins of evil. Why do human beings choose evil? If God is good, why is there evil in the world? And we are going to be talking about the parallels between Epstein and Diddy because you guys know your girl's been on a deep dive. I was like, we're going out guns blazing. We're getting to the bottom of this year to finish off 2025. This is my holiday gift to you all. Please look for the link in the description box below if you want the whole series. It's a long series. It's got a lot of sections of different topics. In the previous video, we were talking about the pastor to predator pipeline. Go and watch that, and I explained why I think that this happens. And it's going to move us swiftly on to Epstein and Diddy because there's all parallels across the board, right? Let's start with this. I always say to you guys that there's two teams, the winners and the losers, right? Run with me here, right? And the difference between which team you find yourself on simply comes down to choice. Now, I definitely obviously believe these two are in the losing team. And the thing is, we all start out in the losing team. That's the funny thing. We all start out in the losing team, and it's our choice to either go with the entropy of the universe, which the law of entropy states that the whole entire universe is always moving closer to disorder, or we choose to go against entropy. Now, that's more difficult, because that requires a lot of effort, a lot of humility, and a lot of things, right? And that's why winning isn't necessarily a common thing because it's not an easy thing. Winning is not for the weak. That's what we're going to be talking about here, because what I think with Epstein and with Diddy, right? They're two sides of the exact same coin. We have two men who started out their lives in unfavorable conditions. You know what I mean? Diddy, desperate to become, and okay, I'm going to say something that's going to be really ruffle some feathers, but I just got to say it for what it really is, okay? In my experience with the male variety, as I like to call it, I've noticed that, again, there's two kinds of men, right? And it's got nothing to do with anybody's looks, anybody's bank account, anybody's anything. It all pretty much comes down to choice, right? You have the guys in life who choose to, despite what they've been through, to not make the excuse and to make something of themselves. You know what I mean? Maybe they delve into whatever it is. They become really good at a particular skill or whatever. They treat people with respect. They take the option of, I would never, this is how I look at life. And I feel like any winner does. I would never want anybody else to suffer the way I do. So I will treat others as though how I would want to be treated. That's the one side. Those are the winning side. Then you have the losing side. Now, on this losing side, there's a lot of trends that I've noticed that happen. And it is success partnered with the success that then leads to entitlement. And herein lies where the problem is and the parallels are with the likes of Epstein and Diddy's. I find with these kinds of guys, right? They have some kind of insecurity either because they've seen other guys who are better looking or taller or richer or more successful, have more access to women, whatever. And they start to form a jealousy or an envy or entitlement. Why does that person get that? Why does that person have this, right? And so what they try to do is, a lot of them, this is where all the angry guys are on this side of the coin, by the way. They, in life, either create something that gives them something to have pride in, right? And therefore become entitled as a result. There's a lot of men out there who feel like, well, I've achieved this and this and this. So how comes I can't have the woman that I want? It's also why a lot of men, when they have achieved this and this and this, feel entitled to treat women however they want. That's where we're going with this loser mentality. Not even just women, sorry, everybody, however they want, because they need to assert their dominance, right? That's why it doesn't surprise me. I don't want to say it. That's why it doesn't surprise me that it would be Diddy and it would be Epstein, right? Because those two, in my opinion, based on what I've seen from how Epstein started out poor. Diddy started out like he really wanted to get into music. He was prepared to do anything and everything for that Andre, whoever guy, right? Who I again think took advantage of that, right? Because he was like, oh, dude, I just want to get in there. I'll do whatever it takes. It's the desperation. When you feel like you're lacking in something and that lack of something consumes you, you become entirely desperate And desperation is the devil's favorite place, the devil's favorite people, right? That's why even where they place a lot of the Scientology places, they go where there's going to be a lot of people struggling, because again, it's the same thing the entertainment industry does. How do they always get you? Both of them, again, Diddy's offering people record labels that can change their life, right? And again, it's always the people who are desperate themselves who get caught up with them. You know, we see that with, I think it was in the industry, right? You see the likes of a lot of people who got into the industry, they were desperate to be, again, the Temptation Trio. Now, let's actually establish something quickly before I continue that point. I believe all humans, we have this weak point that when we don't have an identity in God, we try to find an identity in something else. If when we are early on in our lives, we don't have that identity in something, so that identity could be in your family. You grew up in a really loving home. That's the ideal with God. You grow up in a godly family, so your identity is in God. The protection of that is being in a godly family. And so when you go out into the world, you're not necessarily desperate for money or power or fame. You're more likely to be content with the simple things in life, right? Or alternatively, you go through the things you do, you opt to say, you know what, I may not have had those things, but I want to opt to try and build those things. Again, those are the winning mentality. Or you now are desperate to find identity in the things of this world. So that could be status, money, power, and fame, like I said. One thing I realized for myself that I never really realized was such a benefit for me was that very early in life, when I gave my life to the Lord, when I was like literally 7, 8, it was a private moment between me and him, and I meant it, what I said. And because of that, throughout the years, when I'm faced with opportunities where I have to go against my morals and values, because you only know what your real morals and values are when they're actually tested. That's the other thing. That's why sometimes I believe the Lord allows things to happen in our lives. It's like opportunities for you to evaluate yourself and to actually test if those things are real, because it's all well and good saying, oh, I'm a good person and I'm this and I'm that. But if somebody's now going to pay you to keep hush about something you saw heinous happening to somebody else, right, to a child or something, or now all of a sudden you don't want to be interested. This is why I'm not participating in the holidays anymore, why I hate the holidays. And it's just the time where, oh yeah, everybody all cares about kids, but you don't want your kids or other kids to speak up or have to address any issues of stuff happening if it's going to ruin your Christmas dinner, if it's going to ruin your this, it's going to ruin your Christmas day. So it's like, is your morals and values that real? Because it seems like there's a price attached to it. And that's where the likes of the Diddys and the Epsteins, once they become fully corrupt, start to realize that everybody has a price that you can get away with. And it actually reinstates the powerful feeling that they have, that they're able to do that. Like, I can do whatever I want because I can give people whatever they want. It's like the godliness. They've now become like their own gods. That's what they desire. And usually that stems from deep insecurity. That's why I said my security has always been in God. So a lot of things, like, I was just never going to be the one to just like move to LA and like desperately audition for everyone, just hoping I get booked on any job, because I don't want to work on just any job. I don't want to work in just any role, for that matter. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to just, this is why people sleep with, this is why they get away with it. It's the partnership of the two. It's the desperation of the people for money, power, and fame, right? Just to be seen, and that's what I'm saying. It all comes back down to lack of security, internal security and identity. And I never realized that all the other things I didn't have, because of that thing that I forged with the Lord, and as young as I did, it was just always a part of me, pretty much. As long as I can remember, I can't actually properly remember a time I didn't believe in God the way, and I've never changed from that. I've never, ever, 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 ever doubted it. And again, also because my belief in God doesn't come from the church I went to, the religion, the denomination. Because when me and God's relationship was always already strong, before I even knew what those words meant, before I even knew that these things existed, which again was another protective mechanism why I believe that having a relationship with God is the protector of everything. Back to what I was saying about Epstein and Diddy, I think for both of them, they were desperate because both of them were trying to get in the rooms with the big names. Even in Epstein's, if you've seen in Epstein's house, the photos that have come out, one thing that stuck out to me is how much he has to just have photos of him with all these celebrities. It's like he's finally done it. He's finally got it. It reminds me of the females that I've seen who are all like, oh, they hate men, they hate men, they hate men. And then as soon as they're in a relationship, it's like 30 posts on Instagram of the engagement, what they were doing in the morning, what was happening beforehand, the ring, the him getting down on the knee, the food that they ate afterwards, the first night with my fiance, Oh my gosh, guys, can anybody send me in the comments and let me know what I should be looking for my wedding? Like, what do I need to do with planning? Any recommendations? Like, this is so exciting. This is the best thing ever. And then they're all on TikTok talking about, oh my gosh, and I've never been loved like this before. And like, I'm like, I thought you hated them. You were desperate. You weren't getting it. And therefore you reacted negatively and you reacted heinously. And this is what these guys do, I believe, is they were desperate for things. And then they eventually get them, right? So now, not like those girls who do that. Because for me, those women are heinous, right? And I've seen it happen so many times. And I'm just like, I thought we hated guys. Oh, but now because there's one worshipping you, now you like him. Oh, now they're in. Now we want everybody has to hear every single detail about everything and how in love you are and how much you're looked after. I thought you were independent. I thought you didn't need them. Make it make sense, right? It's the desperation that turns people ugly. This is what I'm saying, when desperation meets losing mentality. We can all in life be desperate in some way, like, you know what I mean? Because there's levels to that. But it's about how we go about what we do with that. So that could be, you know what, I'm going to do what it takes to get myself out of this situation. I'm going to take charge of my own life. I'm going to address and just accept that what's happening around me wasn't good. I didn't like it. I may have been born into unfortunate circumstances, but I'm going to take the reins of my life and I'm going to take control of my life and I'm not going to let this consume me. And then you make a better life for yourself. That's called winning. Because winners choose winning no matter the cost. That's why I say to you that you might look at somebody and go, oh, that person's lucky. I'll use like the YouTubers of today, right? People say it all the time, like about, say, for example, I'll use KSI as an example, right? Because he's somebody that I followed. People will say stuff like he's lucky. I'm like, well, he was making videos every single day alongside everything else he was doing, school and whatnot, all his life. His parents, he went to private school because his parents were working 2 to 3 jobs. I hear parents these days complain about their one job. They worked 2, 3 jobs. I've said this before. A lot of the kids who are in private school that I've worked with, right, they're in private school because their parents are working extra jobs. So meanwhile, the parents in public school are complaining about how hard their life is while they're working just your average 9 to 5 job, right? I'm seeing like other couples where they're picking up 2 jobs. One of them's flying around the world on business just to pay for their child's education. This is what I'm saying, that the loser mentality is the excuse. Right. So again, the excuse that, oh, I'm just going to do whatever it takes. If I have to endure this abuse or abuse others or do whatever, I'll do it because I'm that desperate. That's why I'm saying desperation meets the loser mentality, because it's the two things together. Because desperation meets the winning mentality equals winning, bro. Because if you're desperate enough and you have that winning mentality, it's going to take you higher. Right. But if you have that desperation and it meets the losing mentality, it's going to take you down to hell. And that's where we find ourselves. So like I say, it's like if you want to be like an Olympian, like the KSI story of it all, I'm like, this guy was making videos, doing whatever. His parents are breaking their backs for him to be in the situation he was in at the time. He was making videos when everybody was making fun of him, growing up with people making fun of him online, nobody taking him seriously, being called a stupid YouTuber. A lot of people today can't handle one comment from some random stranger you don't even know, will break you forever, right? Try and think about seeing hundreds and hundreds of thousands of comments over like 15 years of people, right? And consistently working. I respect that. I would like to see what some of these people go through on social media, or like athletes, right? You might think, oh, this person's lucky to have this. It's like, yeah, I would love to see you be disciplined in your food eating and be disciplined to train the way you need to train and be disciplined enough and sacrifice, you know, the relationships around you, because maybe you can't be around like times like now. If you've got your first training meet or your first seasonal competition coming up in January, then this Christmas you're not going to be indulging. No, you're going to have to eat properly. You're going to have to keep it together. You know what I mean? Maybe you'll indulge a little bit, but you're training, you know what I mean? Because you've got something to do. Do you have the discipline to handle that? That's what I'm saying about the losing mentality, is where you're just prepared to do anything and anything as long as you just get to be famous. And I realize that there's a lot of people in Hollywood who are like that, and they actually ruin it for everybody else, because they're the ones who are like, I will take anything. I've seen it myself, like especially in as young women. You know, one of the things that one of the girls who came up about Jeffrey Epstein, Lisa Phillips, I was watching her interview and I was just bewildered just staring at her. Because first of all, she's stunning. She used to be a model. And she was telling her story about her and Epstein and how she ended up at Epstein and how people were critiquing her for, why did you keep going back? Which I think is judgmental on everybody's part. She kept going back for the same reason everybody else keeps quiet over the holidays, and for the same reason why about things and over time and doesn't want to address things because it makes people uncomfortable. She kept quiet for the same reason that other people turned a blind eye to what's happening to Britney Spears, right? Because of some kind of personal benefit. At the time, she wanted to be a model. It was her dream to be a Ford model, I think she called it, or whatever. And what happened is she went to the island, one of her model friends, when they were on a break from their modeling, and she's out here trying to get anybody. And a lot of them are like this. I was looking at even, they were so desperate at the start of their careers just to make it. And as somebody who started making music myself and who genuinely struggles to even want to share it, because I'm kind of quite happy to keep it to myself, to be honest, between me and the Lord, I find it kind of insane watching how people were just fighting for like as many people to hear their music. I was seeing this with Jay-Z, desperate to like kind of have this kind of lifestyle, and be able to flaunt said lifestyle and whatnot. We see this also with a lot of the leaders, right? People are desperate for money, power, and fame. She said it herself, and I don't judge her for it because I think this is a normal human thing. Again, if you don't choose the other way. And she said, it was her dream. It was her dream to be a Ford model. What's so special about that company? Can I just say, I just don't care for, and I think again this comes from my own intrinsic relationship with God. I'm not like star-eyed crazy for any celebrities, any opportunities. There's things I would love to achieve, but that's for my own personal self, as in like I would love to see the best out of myself. But I'm not like, oh my gosh, I would love, like, it's like when people get used to, meet ride JP Morgan Chase when I was like studying. I always mention it because it's one of the companies that people be like, oh, maybe you could get like there's an apprenticeships. I heard there's apprenticeships at JP Morgan Chase. It's like, yeah, whatever. Who cares? Who's JP Morgan Chase? Who's JP Morgan Chase? Other than being successful and rich, which is great. Don't get me wrong. Like, congratulations for that. But who are they? Who are all these celebrities? And even growing up, I would see everybody just like worshipping these celebrities. So again, it goes back to what I was saying about the preachers and stuff, and the preacher to predator pipeline. You have these people desperate for money, power, and fame, and then the jury of the sheeple that worships these people, that reinstates, right, their position, that feeds exactly what we shouldn't be feeding, which is their desperation to be seen, to be powerful no matter what. And then because they're dealing with this in a losing mentality ways, and they're not dealing with the issues, they haven't accepted what's happened, they haven't dealt with their demons, they haven't dealt with whatever, they festered throughout their lives and they become corrupt, which I talked about the 4 stages of defilement in the previous video. I'm not going to get into it all over again. Check that out if you want. It's all linked in the description box below. The playlist is the first link in the description box below. Now, because those demons have just been festering all those years undealt with, they now want to exert, there's two levels to it. Number one, they want to exert that dominance, right? So I saw that with Diddy, for example, perfect example. Now I don't know if you guys know of this guy, what's his name? Drewski. So Drewski has this series he does. Now, I didn't know this was based off of what Diddy used to do. This is what's crazy to grow up in these times and realize I was just a kid while all this was happening, and this is what the older generations were doing. No wonder you guys are struggling. No wonder Moses' generation died in the wilderness. So he does a series where he kind of like, people come and they audition, and then he just tells them, he kind of really rudely tells them to get out. And it's kind of like a comedy bit. Now, the people in the show know that this is how this goes. And like how he's doing it, it is kind of like, it is really just a comedy thing. Like, it is just to make people laugh. And he's very rude with how he gets them out and tells them to get out and whatever. But it's just a joke, right? But I didn't know that this was based off of apparently what Diddy used to do. So I'm like, a lot of his career has been dominance. It's the same with Jay-Z, right? You see with Jay-Z, which I only discovered literally today, that in his career, he was trying to block everybody else left, right, and center. You know what I'm saying? And he was prepared to do whatever it took. And I think this is, again, where the obsession with the children comes into it. Because as an adult, if you're talking to an adult has an idea of healthy boundaries. Even if they were never taught them, they're at least living the backlash of having not been taught them and now learning to implement them, or now at least seeing the red signs, or you're not. It's not as easy to go and and go in and convince a grown woman or a grown man, right? It's easy to take advantage of a child. So what I think is these guys, a lot of it is that they love the dominance aspect of the young people, the kids, right? You're young, you're aloof, you don't know anything. I remember me at 16, 15, I don't know what the heck I was talking about. I don't know what the heck I was doing. So they feel like they have an opportunity to take advantage of somebody that doesn't know any better. And it's feeding that deep insecurity and lack of intrinsic contentment, right? But then there's a second part, like I said, is when you get deep enough, obviously, with the devil, people will say stuff like, how come all billionaires become whatever? It's like, no, they do those things to become billionaires. That's how the world works. And I've been thinking a lot about this because I've been thinking about, the Bible says something. It says the wealth of the wicked is stored up for the righteous. The wealth of the wicked is stored up for the righteous. And I think about that scripture. And I think about it because what I believe that's saying is, meanwhile, the devil loves to put people in places of money, power, and fame when they are going to wreak havoc, when they're not healed, when they're not healthy, because he knows that when they come crashing down, which is inevitable, everyone with them and everything's going to come crashing down together and there's going to be mass destruction. Again, the Bible says the enemy comes to kill, steal, and destroy. God, on the other hand, only puts people in places of money, power, and fame when they're ready. That's why a lot of times those of us who are believers will feel like, oh God, how comes this is taking so long or that's taking so long? And he's like, there's things that need to be done. I'm not going to give you my blessings if you're going to ruin them. Hence why he took the Israelites through the wilderness. Moses' generation died because why? According to the scriptures, he says God got angry because they were stiff-necked. He was saying they were stiff-necked because while he was giving Moses all the instructions of how they were to live differently, how they were to live as, winners and now free in the promised land, because Moses took too long and they were selfish and desperate, they then built a golden calf. Obviously, they're used to seeing this in Egypt. Obviously, they don't have the humility to wait on the Lord, right? And God described them as being stiff-necked, right? Stuck in their ways. And that's what happens as we age. That's why I fear aging, not because of the look of aging, because I think people age beautifully naturally. That's why I wish we weren't doing so much plastic surgery these days, because I love watching people just age naturally. I think it's a beautiful process. And I think there's so much nice to have different phases of your life, right? But I'm scared of aging because I'm so worried. I'm scared watching the older generations of pride, becoming so prideful that I can't do the work of the Lord and that I need to do within myself. And then I become corrupt in one way or another. Right. So, hold on a second. So what they didn't understand was that God was like, I'm trying to help you, because if you don't do the work within yourself, once you gain these things, those things will corrupt you. If I'm already your everything, right? Because if in the wilderness, God became their everything, then everything else is just a bonus. It wouldn't be hard to be generous. It wouldn't be hard to not be corrupted by money, power, or fame, because God is your everything. Your identity is already solidified, right? If you don't have that, now, whatever insecurities, whatever responses that you want to have to your traumas, your demons, can be amplified because now you have the money, the power, the fame to do so. And that's what's happening. That's what's happened. That's what I truly believe. That's why with Epstein, of course, he was going to die by suicide in the freaking prison, because now he's asserted dominance over everybody. I have tapes on all of you. I filmed everything. It is heinous, right? It is heinous for him to literally have cameras absolutely everywhere. He's like, yeah, all of you people, you better not let me go down. You better not let me, see loads of time or whatever, because if I do, I'm taking you all down with me. Same with Diddy. That's why Diddy's doing a little 4.5 little slap on the wrist, right? And we're seeing him there in prison, and he's got another black man that's wearing a wig that's got pigtails, right? Like dressed like a woman, right? Around his arm, he's all hugging up the guys. I was like, is this supposed to be a punishment? Because I feel like for Diddy, this is a reward. To be honest with you, I feel like this is a reward. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, of course he's going to get a slap on the wrist. I don't know why anybody's surprised, because he now has asserted his dominance. right? He's done heinous things. That's why they get other people to do the heinous things with them. They film all of it. So then it's like, oh, we can't actually, they've done it. They've achieved what they didn't have. Well, they started out with not having anything. They started out desperate. Now they went from desperation to dominance. You know what I'm saying? And now they're the ones. That's why they're so protected. That's why it's such a waste of time. Everybody say, oh, why did the people not speak up? Because they can't. Because so many people are involved, because they were prepared to do whatever it took to get to where they were via the losing mentality, like I said. Obviously, there's the other element of the devil is asking them to do these things for the sake of demonic rituals. One of the girls who was in, which one was it? This girl, it was Lisa Phillips again, the one with Epstein. She talks about how, she had this really traumatic event once upon a time where she and another child were chosen, she, the girl, and the boy, and they were doing a ritual. And as part of the ritual, they had to kill the boy and they had to grape her. Yeah, this is what they're doing. At that point, they know they're with the devil. And because, again, they're in pride, because that's what the devil does. They're in pride now. They're like, ha, 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 ha. We know what to do. We know how to have our little freak-offs, and we know how to have our little island, right, with our room. There was a room in there that looked like a dentist chair, and somebody was saying they think that was there because, obviously, if you ruin somebody's teeth, it makes it hard to find their dental records, right? So that's why they think they have that freaking dentist chair in the flipping Epstein Island in his whatever. It's so they can remove the teeth. That's just heinous to even think about, right? Because they can remove people's teeth or destroy the teeth, whatever, so that if bodies are found, they're not able to be identified. It's heinous, 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 heinous. But now they're doing it and they're loving it because the devil gave them exactly what they wanted, and he gave it to them in the most easiest way possible because it goes along with the laws of Satan. The law of Satan is one law in the kingdom of darkness. Do what thou wilt. Do what thou wilt. Do whatever you want. And I've said this to you guys before. It all sounds all well and good in theory. Like, yeah, of course, freedom. Like, yeah, everybody's loving it. But then that also applies to the predators, ladies and gentlemen. And that's what nobody be thinking about. And I will circle back to the rituals. Actually, that's probably what I should talk about next. That is what I'm going to talk about next, the rituals. The ritual aspect and how we're starting to hear more and more little trinkles of how this is all very demonic. Because I told you guys, a lot of people, I think that these people are doing it. It's like how people think Jezebel is about lust. Jezebel just works with the spirit of lust because it's an easy tool. It's one of the easiest tools that she can use. It's the easiest tool you can use as a woman in life, especially with regards to men, is sex anyway. Duh. So it's not that she uses this lust for whatever. It's that she can use it as a tool, right? And so I don't think that a lot of this stuff is necessarily as much as it is about actual sexual desire. I believe a lot of it is to do with dominance. They want to dominate over others. I'm Diddy. I run the record label. I remember in one of the things he was telling somebody that he had to, they have to go and stay with him at Flavor Camp, which sounds really weird already. Because why? Because, and then he's like, I heard in one of the tapes, I wish I hadn't heard it, when he was, doing whatever he was doing with somebody, but he was doing somebody, and it was horrifying to hear the person say in the audio. Like, I forced myself to listen to it. I was like, because I have to hear, in order for me to be a more credible source of the things I say, I have to actually listen to the things like this and actually just address it. So I tried to actually listen to it. It was horrific. And the person was saying, well, you're going too hard. This is just my first time. This is my first time. And I was just thinking, Lord Jesus. And then somewhere else, somebody said that they didn't want to get involved. Oh yeah, because he was like, you need to come and spend a night with me, to somebody. He was like, to sign them already to his label. And they were like, that they don't want to do all this stuff that he was telling them they were going to have to do. And he was like, it's a rite of passage. Like, this is your initiation. Like, I'm in control. I'm the gatekeeper. I'm Diddy. I'm Puff Daddy, right? Whatever he's called himself, right? I'm the one. If you want to get in, you have to do what I say because I dominate you. Because I dominate. Because that's who I've become now. Because and no one's ever going to dominate me. This is why you see him scream in one of those videos like a child, I get whatever I want. Like, it's like the little boy in him screaming out, right? That felt so violated in his youth, clearly. And the little boy in him screaming out, that never wants to feel like that again. Never wants anybody to dominate over him again. You know what I'm saying? Or the Epstein, who's like so happy to have this power over all these people he clearly idolizes, because he was another one who tried his best to get in. And he was a teacher, you guys. He was a teacher. Oh my gosh, I cannot make this stuff up if I tried. He was a teacher, wants to assert his dominance, right? He's like, now I know all the celebrities. Now I control you. I grew up watching you. I was there, working as a teacher, whatever. And again, access to the kids. And then the devil swoops in. Is like, and you guys, I see you guys are over here on the losing team. I see you guys make good little options to be my next big thing. He's inviting them to his boardroom now, to his meetings. He's now the one making the deals. Where do you think they learned that from? They learned that from their father. This is what the Bible's talking about when it talks about the sons of Satan and all this stuff. And then, like in Genesis, which we read at the very beginning of this very long series, and God said, "My children will be against your children. My children will be against your children." And I was wondering, what does that mean? And I'm starting to understand. It's like, because they just behave the way that he does. That's how you know. Same way that God's children and his children, because they behave the way God does. That's why when people were like, how can this person, this church, this Christian do this pastor do this, or this Christian do that, or this whatever. It's like, the fact that they're doing that tells you they're not God's children. It's not that difficult. Like, logic is really just something that doesn't exist these days, like in people's minds. But anyway, they learned the same thing. Offer people, because that's what he did, isn't it? Epstein is like, well, even Lisa, the way she said it, she described it was crazy. She was like, yeah, we came, we had dinner. And this when she first met him. And he was asking all these questions and he was so attentive. And as a young woman, I never had somebody care so much about what I was saying. And I was like, yeah, of course. All the little things. That's why I'm telling you guys, the only solution is for men and women to form strong godly relationships and build godly homes. That's the only protection of all of this. Because all these people, so many of these people that are desperate, is because they come from dysfunction, destruction, and all this stuff from their youth. And that makes them the perfect, they care so much to be seen by the world because they were never seen at home. You know what I mean? And so this is why I'm saying it's so important. It's more important than ever. I'm now realizing I hate the topic. You guys know I hate having to talk about it. But the more I'm looking into all this stuff, the more it's like I can't hide from the truth. This is because this is what it is. So this is why they do it. So this is why, and this is what I'm saying. It's parallels. It's complete parallels. It's this assertion of dominance that was birthed out of being a loser and wanting to have something to prove. Like, that's why I think they're so pathetic. Like, you're really pathetic for that. Listen, guys, it's so weird how this situation has made me feel so much better about having to live in 2026 potentially, which you all know I don't want to have to be here. But anyway, I'm like, you know what? As much as I hate it here because I think it's hell, I'm so glad I'm not them. I would rather be where I'm at than be them. What, to have had to abuse people all these years and to be so desperate to assert my dominance over others, to be so desperate and enslaved to my own demons that I can't help myself with all this, to be killing children and raping them for the sake of what? Money, power, and fame. Money that tomorrow can mean nothing. Money that tomorrow can mean nothing. I low-key am hoping that God is just going to do something where overnight, like, money is going to mean nothing. I'm really hoping. I don't know how, because I just think it would be so funny, because I'd love to see these people scramble for the things in this life that don't matter. You know what I mean? Fame is fickle. People love you today, they hate you tomorrow. And power. With great power comes great responsibility. Listen, we're all going to be held accountable for our actions on Judgment Day. And you know what? Jeffrey Epstein had said, Virginia wrote in her book about Epstein, that he believes he's going to be held, when he dies, he's going to be kept in a cryogenic chamber, right? And said cryogenic chamber is going to keep him until they found the technology to resurrect him. And I bet you any money that the lie that the devil has these people under at the highest level, the deception, because don't forget the devil's the great deceiver, is that, as remember, as I said, it's not the battle between good and evil. It's the battle between the truth and the closest lie. I bet you he's pitched to them, look, we know that Jesus died and was resurrected and was a human. So I bet with technology and with science and with spirituality all come together, we're going to be able to do it. So you do your part while you're here. You make sure I have the money I need for my research and my technology and my science. You do all your thingies. You sacrifice, do these sacrifices because I need to siphon power from God, because I can't create power myself. So I have to take it from him. Hence why they take advantage of children, because that God breathed his life, his power into us. So he needs to take it from us. Hence all the killings and the sacrifices. so that we can continue this. I'm going to be here forever anyways. Eventually, we'll come for you. We're going to come and come and resurrect you. They don't think they're going to hell. I don't think you guys realize that. I'm going to talk more about that. I'm going to tell you guys more about that in the next video because there's just so much to unpack. I'm sorry these videos are a bit longer, you guys, but there's just so much to unpack. And I swear I only study for like a day and I come back and I feel like I could talk for the rest of the, like I was going to say the rest of the year. That's not very long right now. For the rest of until 2027. Anyways, you guys, I'm going to continue speaking about how these people think they can skip hell and heaven and death itself. Because that's really what's going on. And I'm also going to talk about the rituals because, yeah, there's been a few little sprinkles. We're starting to hear more and more. They've tried really hard to keep it secret. And I know why. There's a reason why I believe they're doing it, because I believe that it all stems from the fact that a lot of the Western, especially with the British colonization and stuff, this is why I say I'm going to circle it all back to England in the very end. I believe when they were going around the world, especially if they're going to the places like Africa and the South Americas and the Japans and the East Asias and the South Asias, they'll see all over the world, the Aboriginals, the Native Americans, all these people worship gods, like they worship them and they do all these rituals and they work. They really work. And they saw that and they thought, we're going to take all these technologies. That's why we've got all these museums and all these whatevers with artifacts from all over the world. What do you think these people realize? They're all excavating and all this all over the world. Like, what business do you have excavating in Egypt? I wonder what you found in there. Yeah. And then they thought, we'll come and take that technology. We'll just make sure that we teach our kids in our schools that all the stories of all the gods and it's all mythologies, it's all myths and legends, it's all Greek mythology. Even though our ancestors for hundreds, thousands of years believed these things to be true and the Bible talks about it. Interesting. Anyways, guys, if you're enjoying the series, it's going to be linked in the description box below. First link in bio. And I'll see you in my next one. I'm not sure exactly how I'm going to explain the next part because there's just so much to explain, but just buckle up and stay tuned and continue. And also, if this is the first of all the videos you've watched, I recommend you start from the beginning because this is a whole very long thought path. So if you're confused about some things or some things don't make sense, chances are that's because you're just joining on while we've already established a whole bunch of other things in the previous videos. Anyways, guys, if last game, let's spread the word. God bless you all. God loves you. I love you. And I'll see you in my next one.